Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's episode, I am joined by a very special guest, Danielle Serdachny. Danielle has helped lead Colgate to three ECAC championships, helped Canada to a U18 gold medal back in 2019, and a World Championship silver medal this past April. Danielle also was a top three Patty Kazmaier candidate and broke the single season points record for Colgate. Danielle, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And how's everything going?
Yeah, it's going really good. Thank you for having me.
Well, obviously you're in the middle of your off season right now. So how has your off season been going so far? And do you have any plans this summer, whether it's hockey related or not?
Yeah, for sure. It's been good. I got back from Colgate about 2 weeks ago. I'm from Edmonton, so obviously the Oilers were on a little bit of a playoff run there. So it was exciting to catch some games. So I was in Vegas actually for a couple days there, getting to watch one of those games, which was fun. And then as far as my plans for the summer, my whole family is actually going on a cruise to Hawaii with my cousins and aunt and uncle and grandma. So we leave in about a week, which I'm really excited for. And then probably after that, just kind of get back into training and hockey and start getting ready for next season.
Nice. That sounds like a fun summer. Have you ever been to Hawaii before?
Yeah, I have when I was younger. I want to say like 5 or 6 years ago, and then a few times before. So it's a beautiful place. So I'm definitely excited to go back there.
Nice. And obviously, first time in Vegas, what was your thoughts on that arena? And I've always wanted to go. It's one of my road trips I've always wanted to do with my dad because we want to see some Bruins road games in the future.
Yeah, it was cool. Obviously we have a really nice rink at Rogers Place here in Edmonton too, but they have a beautiful facility. It was overall really cool getting to watch the Oilers. I mean, they unfortunately lost, but all in all, a really cool experience to watch them there and be a part of that atmosphere. So.
And then obviously, training wise, what's something that you want to work on this off season to help you improve your game for next year?
Yeah, I would just say my overall speed. I think it's one of those things that you can always continue to work on at any level. So I guess if I want to make that transition from the college to the senior level, just continuing to work on that aspect of my game and my foot speed. So.
Now, you recently were playing for the Canadian national team in the World Championships. I just want to ask, what was that experience like for you representing your home country in Brampton? And what was it also like playing against some of your teammates as well?
Yeah, it was super unbelievable. Obviously, it's something you dream of from a young age. And when I got that call that I was going to be representing Canada, I was super excited and honored. And yeah, just getting there. It was my first senior world championship. So playing in front of a home crowd and playing with people you've kind of looked up to your whole life was really incredible. And there's not, I guess, too many words for it. But yeah, just seeing all the little kids there and how you're able to inspire them, hopefully. And yeah, the atmosphere was super energetic. And yeah, it was a big honor to represent my country, especially on the home stage there.
Did you learn anything from that experience that you think you're going to take into next season with Colgate and obviously with future competitions with Canada?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of learn every day. It's people you've kind of looked up to, and it's kind of unbelievable to see. They're the best players in the world, but just looking at how much work they put in, extra work, they're always staying on extra to do shots, whatever going on before. So just kind of those little things that separate these players. Like they're already some of the best in the world, and how they're just constantly putting in work to elevate their game in any way they can. So that was pretty cool to be a part of.
Now, I want to transition and talk about the beginning of your hockey career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So, like you sort of mentioned, you're from Edmonton, Alberta. So, talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
Yeah, so my dad actually is a big hockey guy. So he currently has his own company called Serdachny Hockey. And then kind of while he was running that when I was younger, he also worked for the Edmonton Oilers. So I was the skating and skills coach there. So I was just kind of constantly surrounded by it. I also have an older sister who played hockey. So I'm a year and a half younger. So I was just constantly at the rink with her, watching her practices and games. And then pretty sure at around like 2 or 3, my parents put me into like learn to skate program. So kind of just from there, I started to love the game, and then eventually started playing pre-novice, which is like half ice. And yeah, I played with my sister there and kind of grew up to love it. I also have a younger brother who was started at around 3 too. So I think we were just constantly at the rink and constantly surrounded by it. So it's kind of something that I grew up with. So
What's it like growing up in a hockey family? Because obviously your younger brother Noah plays for Colorado College now. I heard that you have a cousin that's going to UConn next year as well. So, growing up in a hockey family, how do you guys help each other get better every day?
yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, not a lot of people experience it. I mean, cousins on my both sides of my family played hockey, so you're always around it. And specifically to my family, I have an older sister who played for a while, so just kind of constantly pushing each other. And then with my little brother too, even like now, just skating together, just talking to each other if we ever need it, has been really important. And then my little sister there, she's 13, so kind of just starting to take it a little more seriously now. So just being someone for her that she can talk to or reach out to or kind of help her in any way I can. I mean, it's really special, obviously, especially when my dad worked for the Oilers. They're at a young age as those people you look up to and watch on TV. So getting the opportunity to meet them and be surrounded by them was definitely pretty inspiring to me too.
Now, who was your favorite player growing up? I assume it was probably someone on the Oilers. So,
Yeah, I mean, I had a few. Jordan Eberle was definitely up there. I think just because I watch him all the time, but another one was also Sidney Crosby. I think that's kind of an easy one for anyone growing up in our generation, but just the unbelievable player he is and person he is, I think allowed me to really look up to him.
now before college hockey, you played for the Pursuit of Excellence School, and the Edmonton Pandas as well. I really like that team name. So, talk about those experiences with both those teams and sort of how did it help prepare you for college hockey with Colgate?
Yeah, I mean, in grade 10, I played for the Pandas, which was cool to be a part of, just living at home and also getting the opportunity to play with my older sister, which hadn't happened in about 10 years before that. So that was cool experience overall. And then in grade 11, I decided to make the move to Pursuit of Excellence in Kelowna, which I think was probably one of my best decisions I've made in my career. I think just first off, they have a world-class coach, Chris Hogg, still to this day, one of my favorite coaches. And then just being surrounded by like great players and getting to do hockey every single day. I mean, it's kind of a funny thing because when you go there, it's definitely a lot of hockey and a lot less school compared to a normal high school. So I think just for that, obviously, school is very important, but getting the opportunity to focus on hockey and train with some of the best players in Canada at the time was really impactful for me in my career.
What do you think was the best memory from your Pursuit of Excellence hockey days when you look back on it now?
I mean, not one specific one, but I guess if we're talking hockey, we won back-to-back CSSHL championships, which was pretty cool. And then honestly, just the best friends you make along the way. Like it's kind of crazy that you're still so close with some of them, even though it was over 4 years ago. Like people like Stephanie Markowski, Jordan Mortlock, Derek Gregg, still some of my good friends to this day. And yeah, so Derek Gregg and Kathy Betnell I actually played with in grade 12 at POE, and they actually ended up transferring to Colgate. So it's kind of cool in that aspect where you build these connections. And yeah, that's just something that was important to me too.
Yeah, I also saw that you played with like Rachel Weisz and Shanri Bossy, so like some other good
Mhm.
Division One players that aren't even with Colgate. So,
Yeah, yeah, they're great. Honestly, yeah, those are two more that I still keep in touch with. I see them every year. Yeah, so great people, great players. Yeah, so it was honestly just an incredible experience. Yeah, the connections you can make with hockey is pretty unbelievable, and how you can still have friends from there, specifically several years later. So.
now you had the chance to play in two U18 World Championships for Team Canada, where you won a gold medal in 2019. So, what was it like getting the chance to represent your country for the first time on that big of a stage? And just talk about winning the gold medal in Japan that year.
Yeah, that was pretty unbelievable too. I mean, at that age, it's something that you look forward to every year. I remember being at like the it's called like the nationals. So you're playing against everyone in your province and just seeing some of the players that have played at that level before and kind of looking up to them. So that following summer after that, when I got invited to that camp, I was super excited and thrilled. It's cool because it gives you that kind of first taste of what it feels like to play for Hockey Canada and be a part of the program. So, yeah, it was a great experience overall, and that was one of the first times the U18 Canada have won gold in I think several years. So obviously, I was super thrilled to be a part of it and to be in a place like Japan. I've never like been there before, so it was super cool and a huge honor to win there.
Where do you keep that gold medal today? I'm just curious.
It's actually hung up in my room and with my jersey, so yeah, it's a special one. So
That's awesome. Well, let's transition now and talk about your recruiting process with Colgate. So what was that like for yourself, and what made you want to go to that school versus other ones you might have looked at?
yeah, for sure. So I moved to Kelowna in grade 11 where I went to POE, and that's kind of where I started picking up more interest from schools. And then from there, I started kind of touring around different places and kind of getting to know the coaches. So I was one who kind of committed later because at the time, I don't think they had those NCAA recruiting rules. So people were committing in literally grade 8 or 9, which is kind of crazy young. So I would kind of waited it out to see kind of what was available, which could have been a little risky, I guess, looking at it. But yeah, so I was fortunate enough to get to tour around different campuses and kind of get to know the coaches. And Colgate was one of the first schools I think that reached out to me. So they had a great coaching staff. They still do, but there's has been change with the assistant coach coming into my freshman year. So yeah, I was pretty fortunate in the fact that I got to build a relationship with the coaches through the phone, and then we also had like a POE showcase where the coaches would kind of come into. So yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty indecisive person. So when it came to picking schools, I was kind of a bit lost, I would say, on where I wanted to go. But when touring different campuses, I feel like when I got to Colgate, it kind of just felt the most right for me and the best fit for me. So yeah, I think that was kind of what was the deciding factor in my decision. But yeah, it was a bit of a tough decision for me, but I'm fortunate and grateful for choosing Colgate.
What was like sort of the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the speed of the game, the physicality, or just the less time and space with the puck to create and make plays?
Yeah, I think a bit of all. I would say probably the speed compared from high school to university. Obviously, you're playing against players that can be potentially like 3 or 4 years older than you, so they have that experience and that speed and physicality that they can bring, which you maybe didn't see as much of it in high school. But I actually played boys hockey for a good chunk of my hockey career, so I'd say the physicality was not too different from what I've kind of experienced before. So yeah, I would say probably the speed.
Now, talk about what it's like playing in the ECAC and just the competition you face every weekend, because I think it's the most competitive conference in women's college hockey. Because teams 1 through 8, I think, have a chance to win the trophy, which not many conferences can say that. So, from your perspective, what's it like playing in the ECAC and playing top teams like Quinnipiac, Clarkson, and Cornell on a regular basis?
Yeah, I'd honestly say I love it. Obviously, you get to play a good team every weekend. You always know going into it that it's going to be a battle, no matter who you face. I think they had several teams ranked in the top 15. So just going into every weekend, you know that you're going to get your team's best, especially playing at Colgate when we've won a few times there. So you're going to get every team's best. So I think that's what makes it so fun and competitive playing against those top teams. So, yeah, I mean, I really enjoy playing in the conference, and I really like the aspect where you get to play two different teams Friday, Saturday. It adds a little bit of a change up there. So, yeah, it's been great so far.
Now, your team faced a lot of adversity to get to where it is today. Obviously, it started off when the pandemic started because there was a lot of challenges that your team had to face during your sophomore year, with games being canceled, obviously playing only against 3 opponents, and then having no fans in the stands. So my question is, how did you handle those challenges of only playing those 3 teams, and sort of how did your team handle the challenges of the pandemic, and how did you use those challenges to make yourself a better hockey player and a better team moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are pretty fortunate out of lots of schools, obviously, getting the opportunity to play. So I think we kind of went in with that mindset that we are lucky that we are playing compared to many other schools that weren't able to. So I think that was one thing that was pretty big for us. And I think another thing is just leaning on each other. Obviously, we're all pretty much going through the same thing here. So having each other's backs and really leaning on each other in times of uncertainty and when you're feeling down, I think was really important. So we definitely made the most of that year, regardless of playing with only four teams there. I mean, we are lucky also too. They were all super competitive games. Like four really good teams in that division. So I think that kind of helped me grow as a player too. Obviously, Clarkson is a very good team, and I think we played them over 10 times. So it definitely got a bit repetitive, but I think you kind of just had to go in with the mindset that it's making the team better and it's making yourself better. So I think that was really important.
Now, you won your first ECAC championship, beating St. Lawrence your sophomore year. Talk about what it was like winning that trophy for the first time.
Yeah, from the top of my head, I think that was Colgate's first trophy they won. So I think everyone was super excited. It's kind of funny just having no one in the stands. You're only celebrating with each other, which is a bit weird, but I also think it's kind of cool in a way that you're celebrating with each other, and I'm kind of just like living in the moment with it. Yeah, it was, you went through a lot of adversity through the year. So I think just kind of to end the ECAC on top was very special for us, and especially a lot of the seniors too. I mean, they've went through COVID that year, different other things. So regardless of having only four teams, I think it was just a really special moment for our group and coaching staff, and anyone who was kind of along for the journey.
You then had your first tournament appearance, playing against Minnesota Duluth in a hard-fought game in Erie, Pennsylvania. What did you learn from your first tournament experience in playing in that game? What I remember is just Kaylee Osborne had probably the game of her life and it was a good goaltending battle.
Yeah, that was actually a crazy goaltending battle. Obviously, two very good goalies on both ends. I think the game was 1-0, so you don't see that too often. So yeah, I mean, it was tough losing in overtime. It always sucks, but I guess you kind of take away all the little things from the game and how small the margins are. I mean, obviously, you're not going to win a hockey game if you can't score a goal. So I think that was kind of something that stuck out to me personally, just how small the margins are, especially at that level. Yeah, I mean, it was tough in the aspect that it was obviously our season was over and people were graduating, but I think at the same time, a lot of us were just like grateful for the year we had and getting to play through a pandemic, which is pretty unbelievable to think about. So, yeah, definitely disappointing end of the season, but it was a great game between two good teams. So,
Now, during your junior and senior year, your team was one of the best teams in the country, finishing in the top 10 in the rankings. So, how did you guys sort of handle the pressure of being a ranked team? Because, like you mentioned, there was always a target on your team's back, even in the ECAC. And how did your team sort of maintain that consistency throughout the regular season from your last 2 years playing with Colgate?
yeah, like I kind of mentioned, I think you kind of have to go into every game knowing you're getting every team's best. Like, even being on the other side of it when you're kind of the underdog, you're always trying to beat that top dog team. So I'm just kind of having that mindset from both sides definitely helped me personally. And yeah, I guess during the year you're going to face adversity. You're going to lose to teams maybe you shouldn't have lost to, but kind of just attempting to stick together and kind of get past that. I mean, it happens to so many teams, whether we realize it or not. But yeah, just knowing that you're going to get every team's best and yeah, kind of going from there.
Now, in your junior year, your team got to go to Nashville. I want to ask you what that experience was like because it seemed like your team had a lot of fun based on the social media posts that Colgate post. I really liked the pregame outfits that you guys came out with, especially you, Maggie McEachran, and Derek Gregg with your cowboy outfits. So, just talk about that Nashville trip and what you took away from it.
Yeah, that was honestly a blast. I mean, I guess the cherry on top being that we beat top ranked team, but yeah, overall the experience was just unbelievable. So many families were there, siblings. Yeah, so I guess just being, I've never been to Nashville, so just being a part of that atmosphere And then playing some great teams. I mean, Boston College and both Minnesota, not easy games to play in. So coming out on top on both of those was pretty huge. And then winning the guitar there at the end is definitely something that I'll remember in my college career. And I think for the outfits, we all kind of decided to kind of go for some Western style. So I think quite a few of us had some fun with that. So it definitely helps keep things light before the games. So yeah, that was important and lots of fun too.
How'd you find your hat?
I honestly don't remember. It might have been Target days before. I think we just were like, oh, let's go to Target to see if we can find anything. So it might have been that from the top of my head, if I remember correctly.
Now you won your second ECAC championship that year, beating Yale in overtime. But then the very next week you lost to them in the tournament. How'd you sort of handle the roller coaster of emotions of that week, and how have you reflected on those games in the past year?
Yeah, I mean, that one was also really special. Obviously, not to diminish, I guess, the trophy we've won in the years past, but just getting to play with the full league, I think that was really special. And playing at a rink like Yale too, obviously it's a pretty special rink there, and they had a really special team there. So winning that ECAC trophy, especially in overtime, was really special for me and my teammates. So yeah, that was kind of a crazy turn of events there, and then we ended up playing them again in the NCAA quarterfinals. So another great game. Obviously, going into overtime the second year in a row there. You're definitely a little nervous, but I think the game kind of could have went either way, just based on how it went the weekend before. So yeah, I mean, definitely another disappointing loss for our group, but I mean, I think as a program, we have continued to do things that have never been done. So yeah, I mean, you kind of go out there and give it your all and hope for the best, but I guess sometimes it doesn't really work out. So yeah, like I mentioned, it was disappointing and sad, but kind of looking at the bigger picture, you kind of reflect on the season we had as a group, and I think it was really special. So at the time that it happened, you don't really think like that, but then when you kind of look back at it, it's yeah, it was definitely a special group and a special team, and yeah, one to be proud of.
Now you were named captain of the team before your senior year. What type of leadership did you want to bring to the team this past season? And are you more of a vocal leader or lead by example type of player?
I think when I was an assistant my junior year, I was kind of more of a lead by example type of player. I mean, I'm not the most vocal player or kind of that sort of stuff. I kind of just like to put my head down and work and kind of get after it there. So I think my junior year, I was kind of more like that. But then transitioning to my senior year here, the three other captains graduated. So I kind of knew I had to fill a bigger role, I guess. So I'm still not the most like vocal person, but I think I'll say something when something needs to be said. So I think that's important, especially as a captain, that you're kind of like following what you're saying. So I think that was kind of important to me, to not always be the one talking, but when something needs to be said, to say it and then kind of follow it up by my actions.
Now, the same thing that happened to your team your junior year also happened to your team your senior year as you beat Clarkson to win your third ECAC championship, but then you guys lost to Wisconsin in the tournament. I guess what'd you take away from both of those games? And I guess how are you going to use the Wisconsin game and the Clarkson championship win to help your team out for next season?
Yeah, I mean, that was the back-to-back-to-back win, so that's another special thing that I don't think has been done too often in the ACAC. But yeah, another special win with a special group there. But then kind of transitioning to Wisconsin, we kind of knew what we were in for. If you look at their roster, it's pretty unbelievable, the depth they have and the talent they have. So I think just kind of takeaways from that is just um, how any game can kind of go any way on any given day. Obviously, we've been pretty successful in the aspect that we've won three championships, but we haven't been able to get past to that NCAA quarterfinal kind of hump and get to the Frozen Four. So I think just kind of, yeah, focusing on the little things, whether it's power play, penalty kill, just, yeah, like I mentioned, those small margins are so important. And I know we have a really motivated group. as there's quite a few of us in our last year here in the NCAA. So you kind of got to leave it all out there and hope for the best. So I think that's kind of my mindset for the next year. You got really nothing to save it for. So yeah, we're going to push for that and push for the Frozen Four and push for an eventual national championship and kind of, yeah.
You obviously sort of answered my next question, but what are your team's goals and expectations for next year? Obviously, like you said, it was to win it. It's to win a national championship. But is there any other goals that might be in your team's radar that fans aren't aware of?
Yeah, I mean, obviously winning is such an important part of hockey, but just I think from an off-ice standpoint, just continuing to create memories. Like people say it like college goes by so quick, and it truly does. Like without that COVID year, a lot of us would be done, which is sad to think about. So just kind of making memories with your best friends and taking it all in, living in the moment, embracing the highs and lows, I think is so important. Obviously, we have a goal of winning a national championship, but when you think about it, at the end of the year, only one team out of 40 something gets to do that. So I think there's a lot more than winning. Obviously, it's at the top of our list too, but I'm sure several other teams want that too. But yeah, just continuing to create memories and live in the moment with my teammates, I think is really important.
Now, your offensive numbers have been outstanding throughout your college hockey career, but since your sophomore year, you've increased your point total by 20 points every season since then. So, my question is, what has been the biggest improvement you've made to your game, and what do you work on to make that part of your game better throughout the off season and obviously during the season as well?
Yeah, I think one thing I've kind of started to develop is kind of a dual threat mentality. Just I guess playing boys hockey, I feel like that's kind of where it started, where I've always kind of been a pass first player. So obviously you're playing with a lot of people who are better than you, bigger than you, stronger than you. So I was always kind of typically someone who would dish the puck off. So I think kind of transitioning to girls hockey, I would say teams specifically that we played quite a few times would kind of catch on to that. So kind of switching it up and obviously developing my shot and my stick handling and kind of those little skills I think were important. But yeah, I'm just kind of transitioning both into like a dual threat on the ice, I think kind of helped that. Then obviously my teammates, I get to play with some pretty great players throughout the year, kind of switches up. But yeah, even our power play was phenomenal. So just kind of those things that have pretty substantial impacts, I would say, are really important for that.
I do want to ask you, you're a very good face-off player as well. So, how do you work on that part of your game?
Yeah, I think just like spending extra time after practice, or even like Chelsea O'Walklin, one of our coaches, she's always kind of looking at social media if there's something that comes up with face-offs, sending it over to me and kind of just yeah, working on that. I think that's something that I want to continue to work on too. Just not that I didn't realize it before, but just watching more like professional games now, just seeing how important face-offs are for possession and that sort of things. And obviously, like face-off plays and that sort of stuff are a lot more a part of the game, I feel like, than they ever were. So I think that's kind of one aspect of my game that I want to continue to grow and work on too.
Yeah, for sure. I was listening to an interview with Paul Stastny. He was talking about the art of doing a face-off, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And obviously, like you
Hmm.
mentioned, it's so important because if you remember the men's national championship game, Quinnipiac won. It's the play started off from
Mm,
winning the face-off, so it's just such an
yeah.
important part of the game. I feel like people sort of don't think about too often.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Even thinking about that, like a huge game like that, how it's won or lost on a face-off play, I think you kind of start to realize it as you kind of gain more experience with hockey and just watch different things, how crucial that is. So,
Now, because of your outstanding point statistics this past season, you were nominated for the Patty Kaz Award this year. I sort of want to ask you, what was it like being nominated for that award, and what does that mean for the program moving forward?
yeah, I mean, it was really special, obviously, to be nominated for that. When you get to college, you obviously hear quite a bit about the Patty Kaz Award and like winning a national championship. So just to have my name on that list alongside many great players was definitely a big honor for me. As far as like the program, I think it just kind of speaks to the phenomenal program we have at Colgate. alongside the coaching staff and players. Just yeah, I mean Colgate's obviously a smaller school and obviously a very good program. So I hope it can draw kind of more attention to it in any way possible. Just seeing a player from a smaller school be a part of that list. So.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions just to get to know you a little bit more off the ice. First one is, what music do you like to listen to on a daily basis?
I would definitely say country. Probably a bit unpopular with hockey players, but I guess being from Alberta, my parents were kind of always country music listeners, so kind of grown to love it.
What is your most embarrassing hockey moment?
I was thinking about this. I think it was when I was in Bantam AAA. I played for MLAC after I got cut from SSAC. We were playing this Sherwood Park team that was like really stacked, like a lot of first rounders in the WHL, and I think obviously some of them are in the NHL now. We were losing 19-1, which is like pretty crazy for playing in that level. And I just remember Sherwood Park trying to get to 20 goals, and I was just like, oh, this is a mess. Like they were kind of all cheering on the bench, like really going for that 20th goal, and I was like, oh, this is really embarrassing. So I think that's kind of up there for that.
Did they get to 20 goals or no?
No, it ended up being 19-1, but I just
That's good.
remember them on the bench going for it, and I was like, oh, 20 goals in a game is quite insane. So
If you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
I'd probably go with Justin Bieber, honestly, someone I've kind of loved since a young age, and he's kind of a hockey fan, so I think that'd be really cool.
I feel like I would do Matthew Tkachuk. I feel like he seems like such an interesting guy and a fun guy to talk to and have lunch with. And I feel like he's improved a lot his game since he got traded from Calgary.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good one. He seems pretty funny, even with that overtime celly there at the end. So I feel like be pretty comical to get to know.
Now, last non-hockey question is who on the Colgate women's hockey team has the best style besides yourself, obviously?
There's actually quite a few. I think some of the girls like to dress up. I'd say Dare Greg, you probably know that, and Nina Brick, a younger player, but they both definitely like to get dressed up for the game. So it's pretty fun to be a part of.
Now, getting back to some hockey questions now. First one is for all the younger players listening to this episode. What advice would you give them on what it takes to be a college hockey player like yourself?
Yeah, honestly, probably just continue to work hard. I know that's you probably hear that so much, but in this day and age, it's pretty much the only thing you have control over is your work ethic and attitude. So I think if you can bring both of those, and yeah, I think that would just is so important. Obviously, there's so many highs and lows of hockey, and there's so many things that you really have no control of over. So I've always been told just to keep working hard, no matter what, and kind of have a good attitude with it all. So I think that's kind of pretty important advice.
Now, do you have any shout outs you want to give to your teammates, family members, or friends? And who should we have on the podcast next?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many Colgate girls you've had, but we got some pretty funny girls there. So I would say Dara Gregg or Nina Brick, Kaylee Osborne, pretty funny. So those are all great options. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. It's always so much fun getting to watch you play. So I'm super honored that I had the chance to meet and talk with you today. And I wish you nothing but the best for your future endeavors and for next season with Colgate and with Team Canada as well. And have a good summer. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.